the inflationary coefficient. And what this means is that goods that are hard to produce, goods that are scarce, they are more responsive to changes in liquidity. A good way to think of this would be, think about Kraft Mac and Cheese, right? Very abundant. You can mass produce it, millions and millions and millions of units easily. There's virtually no cost. And so as the money supply increases, you can also increase the supply of Kraft Mac and Cheese at the same rate, right? So they're both increasing. So the actual price of Kraft Mac and Cheese won't go up that much. Versus compare that to Miami Beach real estate. The supply of dollars is increasing. You can't increase the supply of Miami Beach real estate overnight. And so you're going to see the price of Miami Beach real estate increase a lot more than the price of Kraft Mac and Cheese. And so Bitcoin is just the continuation of this idea. It's absolutely scarce. There's only 21 million. Versus you compare to the stock of a company. The money supply can increase. They can issue more shares, right? They can dilute the supply of their stock. And so by virtue of being the only absolutely scarce commodity there is, Bitcoin inherently has to respond the most to changes in the money supply.
Yeah, and I think this comes back very nicely to a point you made earlier about the Mona Lisa, where there are actually, there are absolutely finite things, but it's just that those things aren't divisible and they aren't portable. So this isn't something that the masses have any opportunity to really participate in. I love Michael Saylor talking about this idea of, if it's Miami Beach real estate or it's real estate in Manhattan in the 1700s, like you're really having the opportunity to buy something that is as scarce as something could possibly be, but that it is also divisible and you can own $100 of it if that's what you can afford to do. So I think that is also another one of these dynamics that is really just new and weird and difficult for people to understand. So I guess, tying into this idea of why is this thing attractive and potentially a better alternative than other assets? A very simple way to think about it is this concept of the scarcity while it's also very available.
Right. 100%, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in kind of I hate the term privilege, but in America, we are privileged. We have access to US financial markets. We can buy equity in the best businesses in the world. But that's not the case for a lot of people in other countries, right? And so everywhere is affected by inflation. So if you live in a third world country, what can you buy to protect yourself from inflation? Because you can't buy US stocks. Real estate in your area is probably not very desirable, right? If you're in a place that's run by gangs and cartels, nobody wants to own land there. It's just not a great investment, right? And so what can you hold to preserve your purchasing power? Well, maybe you can hold gold, but if it's a dangerous country, you could get robbed. You don't necessarily want to hold that. You can get scammed with fake gold. It's you want to hold Bitcoin. That's the only thing that's globally available to everyone to hold. And, I guess one more point I would add there is, in terms of moving the needle on asset prices, you do want to track, what are the wealthiest people in the world doing? It's one thing if all the people in the third world start to save in Bitcoin. I think that would be great. Very, it's a morally good thing. They'll be able to save their purchasing power. But in terms of actually moving the Bitcoin price, might not have that great of an impact. Let's just be honest. They don't have a lot of wealth to save, people in other countries. What are the American financial institutions doing? Because they have the most wealth in the world and they're buying Bitcoin. You've seen Larry Fink of BlackRock go on these national shows and talk about how he's talking about the same things we are, that Bitcoin is a solution to inflation. It is a great place to hide from, government debasement of the currency. The US is in this massive debt spiral and Bitcoin's a great way to protect yourself against that. This is the president of the largest asset manager in the entire world. He's saying these things. So obviously some very important people, very wealthy people understand this and they're accumulating Bitcoin. So it's, I would do as they're doing, if I'm being honest.